Have you ever seen a basketball player so tall that even Shaquille O'Neal looks small standing next to him? The NBA has always had its giants. Today, players like Zach Edey and Victor Wembanyama stand at 7'4", towering over nearly everyone on the court. The tallest in NBA history, Gheorghe Mureșan, reached 7'7". But even those men look short compared to Olivier Rioux, a college freshman standing at 7'9", tipped to become the tallest NBA player of all time. Yet, remarkably, there is someone even taller, a man whose sheer size makes every other giant look ordinary. His name is Abiodun Adegoke, though the internet knows him as Big Niga. Listed at 7'11", he looks like a myth walking the earth. Videos of him palming a basketball with 2 fingers or flicking in jumpers with a single hand made fans question if they were watching reality. The kind of size that defies belief, the kind of size that makes dunking possible without leaving the floor. And yet, despite being the tallest basketball player alive, he never played in the NBA. The reason why is a story stranger than fiction. Abiodun's name exploded into the basketball world in 2021 when Shaquille O'Neal posted a clip of him online. Shaq's endorsement alone was enough to break the internet. Fans rushed to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, desperate for information about this nearly 8-foot-tall phenom. But there was almost nothing to be found. No biography, no history, no clear record. Just a mysterious YouTube clip showing him dominating a youth basketball league in Dubai. The gym was filled with teenagers, and towering over all of them was a man who looked like he had been dropped into the wrong category. That league, the MPAC Youth League, was exclusively for players aged 14 or younger, which meant if the footage was real, the world had just discovered a 14-year-old nearly 8 feet tall. The story went viral overnight. Headlines screamed about the 7'11" teenager. People speculated he could become the most unique prospect in basketball history. Scouts wanted to know everything about him. But almost immediately, the first cracks appeared. The question wasn't just how tall he was, but how old. Was Abiodun really a teenager? Or was the basketball world being fooled? Abiodun was born in Nigeria, a country with a history of producing giants of the game. But unlike Hakeem Olajuwon or Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was discovered and nurtured by scouts early, Abiodun seemed to appear out of nowhere. He had already played for local clubs in Nigeria, and even trained in South Sudan before arriving in Dubai. If he was really only 14, that meant he had been playing against grown men as a child, already standing close to his adult height. That didn't add up. The truth is, Abiodun's background was shrouded in mystery. He came from poverty. His height was as much a burden as it was a gift. At home, he couldn't stand upright inside his family's house. Shoes were impossible to find. He wore size 53, and most of the time he played barefoot. A Nigerian coach eventually discovered him and introduced him to the game, and for a while, he dreamed of following the path of Hakeem Olajuwon, but as his name spread, whispers followed. In Africa, record-keeping is inconsistent, and age fraud is a known issue in sports. Birth certificates are not as strictly regulated as they are in the West, and families are sometimes convinced to list their children as younger to increase opportunities. Several NBA players have been accused of this practice in the past, and in Abiodun's case, the evidence became overwhelming. The viral videos claimed he was 14 in 2021, but Nigerian newspapers had written about him years earlier, listing his age as 17 in 2016. That would make him 21 or 22 in 2021, not 14. And former Nigerian soccer legend Segun Odegbami, who once mentored him, later wrote that Abiodun was in his early 20s when he went viral. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. The so-called teenage prodigy was actually a grown man, likely in his mid-20s today. So why the deception? Why lie about his age? The likely answer lies in the business of sports. By the time Abiodun was discovered, he was already too old to go through the traditional basketball pipeline in the United States. No high school programs, no prep schools, no years of NCAA development. Scouts don't gamble on a raw player in his 20s. But if they could convince the world he was 14 suddenly, the story changes. A 7'11" freshman in high school would be the most intriguing prospect in history. Reclassifying him as a teenager may have been a ploy to reintroduce him as a project, hoping a top American program would take the bait, but the plan backfired. People recognized him. Old articles resurfaced. Coaches remembered him from Nigeria. Once the truth came out, the dream of a professional path evaporated. He was too old for college basketball, too inexperienced for the NBA, and too physically limited for the demands of a pro career overseas. Because as much as his height awed the internet, his body told a different story. He carried a visible hunchback, a sign of the strain his frame endured every day. At nearly 8 feet tall, every step is pressure, every movement a test of endurance. The giants who succeed, players like Wembanyama or Taco Fall, were identified early, trained in elite facilities, and surrounded by coaches and nutritionists to manage their bodies. Abiodun never had that. He grew up barefoot, playing on dusty courts in Nigeria, long before anyone thought of molding him into a professional. By the time he reached Dubai, it was too late. Today, in 2025, he remains the tallest basketball player alive. But he is not a professional. He has never played in a recognized league, never put up stats that scouts could analyze. His presence exists almost entirely through viral clips, short videos of him dunking without jumping, shooting casual jumpers, or standing next to NBA legends to shock the internet with his size. What we don't see is the grind of real competition, the travel schedules, the daily practices, because in truth, they aren't there. Abiodun has become less a player and more a spectacle, a reminder that sometimes size alone isn't enough, and that is the real tragedy of his story. He had the height that millions dream of, the kind of gift that made him larger than life. But without the foundation, without the training, without the right guidance at the right time, it was wasted potential. At 7'11", Abiodun Adegoke should have been one of the most fascinating experiments in basketball history. Instead, he became a cautionary tale about hype, misinformation, and how the internet can create a superstar in seconds and expose a fraud just as quickly. So when fans ask why the tallest player in the world isn't in the NBA, the answer is simple, because he never truly played. Now it's your turn. Do you think Abiodun Adegoke could have made it if he had been discovered earlier? Or was his body always destined to break down under the weight of his height? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the strangest stories in basketball.